Welcome back in, everyone. It's your man Berkey and my beautiful bride Brianna. We took a little sabbatical, just a little week off, just so that we can again take some time to understand and listen to ourselves and talk to ourselves and talk to each other. And then, as well as since we're in this parenting series, just spending time with our little ones. So that's kind of what we've been up to the last couple of weeks, and it's been a week to say weeks, right?
Absolutely. And as you can see, we have two co-hosts here, our girls, since it's the parenting, and you guys see us fighting with them every week anyways. We just decided today we're not even going to fight it, and they're just going to be here. And yeah, that's part of parenting, learning how to go with the waves of life sometimes. And part of those waves of life too, as you can see, is there's sun in the background. So we're filming at a different time. We do our happily ever after hours because it's after the hours when the house would be shut down. But you know what? Sometimes you just have to adjust.
You just got to adjust. That's the thing about parenting, is that you have to be able to almost go with the flow, but also having structure.
Right.
Having
it's a happy medium.
It is a happy medium. And that's kind of something of what we'll eventually talk about. But today's messages, I feel like it's about what we're teaching our children, and obviously we always want to teach our children and have them learn things, but sometimes those things may not keep them or follow with them throughout life, and that's the scary thing to think about parenting, and it's something that I think we all, as parents, I would say, kind of worry about. Like, oh, I hope they remember this, or I hope they remember that when they get older. And I got a question. I didn't surprise her. Yeah, I got a question, right? This question that I have is, what is something that you learned from your parents that you kind of like still say, or that you are mindful of?
Wow. Okay, listen, he knows I'm the question person. I was not prepared. Okay, but I like it though. Keep me on my toes. So something that I keep in mind that my parents taught me is make sure you're representing the name right. Mm-hmm. So at the time, of course, it was my maiden name that y'all don't need to know, but if you know me, you know it. But it would be representing the name right. And so I still think of that now. I still kind of, because people know who my parents are, but now it's, making sure I represent the Burkhalter name to the best of my ability. So, when I'm out, it's making sure that, I'm carrying myself the way that I want to be portrayed. And then also, not even just my last name, but also because people know that I'm a follower of Christ. And so looking at it in that way too of how am I representing God? Because sometimes you may be the only church that people see. And so a lot of times some people like to say, I know Christian people and they're hypocrites and all this stuff, and they blame that on why they don't go to church. So yeah. I just try to make sure that, everything that I represent, whether it's our last name, the Burkhalter family, being a Christian or being a mom even, or a wife, just making sure that I'm representing it to the best of my abilities.
Yeah, no, those are really good. And that's something that we are definitely preaching to our children about who they are and kind of how to represent us when they're outside the home, because we all share the same last name. So, and we even do it obviously with my son. He has our last name as well. So, that's something that we are, I think, aware of. And it's, for me, that wasn't even like taught. That was something that for me, I just kind of like picked up in life, where I was like, you know what? That's what I'm gonna. I think actually, my mom might have said it. I don't know.
Well, and you probably learned it with sports, because I think they do that too when it comes to like.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, that's
you
true.
Being a Division I athlete, like the way you carry yourself.
How you represent your family, your last name, and then how you represent the name on the front. So I guess sports did kind of put that into, because I was like, and everybody from my area of Oklahoma. If they met one Burkhalter, they've met them all.
And I kid you not, we can go anywhere and they'll be like, Travis Burkhalter. We were literally at the zoo, y'all, and somebody spotted him out of a crowd of people, and I was just like, All right.
You know, but then again, I think that goes with how I treated people and how I have a relationship with people. And so that was something that was, I guess, sports did kind of instill in me. And my mom taught me a lot. I'm sure I can't think of nothing, but the thing that always sticks to my head is my dad. He had a saying: "Closed mouths don't get fed. Closed mouths don't get fed." And
that is an accurate voice.
And so he would say that to me like as a child all the time. And really, it kind of goes with everything. For me, is you have to learn how to speak up for yourself. And that was his way of telling me to speak up. And that's something with Robin that I'm teaching, because she likes to whisper when she's asking stuff. And I'm like, what? Like, I haven't said it to her enough yet, because it's just like, I'm just telling her. But for me, closed mouths don't get fed. It's just, you got to be a vocal person. You got to learn how to advocate.
Yeah.
Advocate for yourself. You have to learn how to advocate for yourself. And you know, going through life as an adult, sometimes you don't know how. You can be a full-fledged adult and you still aren't very comfortable with speaking out with something that you don't agree with, or with just asking for something, right?
Listen, I'll say this. If anybody, if women probably more so, go get your hair done. I have always been scared to like tell stylists when I don't like my hair or I want to do something different.
Yeah.
And I just won't say anything because I'm just like, oh, I don't want it. And I mean, that's something small, but like that's advocating for yourself and being like, I'm not sure about this, or I want to do something different or whatever. And so I say that because I got my hair done today and I advocated for myself today. And I just told the lady, because, well, it wasn't nothing she didn't do anything wrong, but I was just asking her to do something different. And then I was asking questions about my hair in general, which I normally wouldn't do. But I was like, you know what? I need to know these things about myself. So, but yeah, just those little things like that. And I had to learn that at my big age because I did not ask questions growing up.
Yeah.
So,
you know, again, it's kind of what we talked about off camera this week was, as a kid, when you're around your parents, most of the time you're told to be quiet, right? Or
go sit down
or whatever. And you're not really given the opportunity to talk, because it's like, oh, don't talk back. And it's like, well, I you know, and now when you in that adult age, you've never been conditioned to speak up when you are uncomfortable, or when something isn't all the way right,
or if you just don't understand,
you know, it's because I said so, you know. And we all have heard that, because I said so. And that is something that is detrimental to the growth of a person's confidence of learning how to advocate for themselves, because they've never been given that opportunity as a youth. And so if they've never been told or taught that as a kid, then now as an adult, you're not going to really immediately do it. You know, you could say, oh yeah, I would tell somebody this, but in actuality, you're probably not.
Right.
So.
Right.
But yeah, so, you know, that's kind of going along with what we're talking about. But
how he tried to.
I said, but I was about to say, but do you have a question?
Yes.
You know, I sneaked a question. I snuck a question in.
He snuck it in, trying to take my segment. Anyways, no. So my question is, what is something about parenting that you value that is not talked about a lot? Like, not one of the big things people talk about with parenting, but like, what's something small that you value a lot about
how
being
funny
a
my
dad?
kids are. They're funny, all of them. They crack me up, and it's so funny. Like, it's so hard to, like, when you're upset with them, how you try not to be, because they're cute, one, but then they're funny. They say something that just throws you off guard. That I don't think ever will not make me laugh inside. Like earlier this week, I put Robin to bed, and it was something simple, but I was like, listen, she's got to sleep in her bed, and she's been doing a much better job of sleeping in her bed. But I take her to her room after she was asleep in our bed. I took her to her room, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna sit in the room with you, but you know, obviously you trying to sneak out. So she's asleep, and as like she's asleep, I'm trying to pull my hand out of her hand. She clasps me. She just clasps my hand. Like, where you going? And it just cracked me up. I'm sitting over here stifling my laugh because I'm just like, I thought you were asleep. And it just made me chuckle because she was
I ain't
like,
that sleep.
yeah, I'm not all the way gone.
That's funny. Mine would be how much they like miss you. Like, I can go to the mailbox and come back, and Robin's like wanting to throw me a parade because I'm back. So, and then like even not even for me, like I enjoy watching when you get home from work and she runs to the door. She's like, "Daddy," and she hugs you and pops her foot like
That's
Princess
so
Diaries.
That's so funny.
Never seen the movie, but she got it from me. And I don't even,
it's
and it's
ingrained.
just in her because I don't think she's seen me do it.
Never.
But
Not
that just warms my heart.
Yeah, no,
every
that's
time.
very sweet. Absolutely. I do enjoy that one too. That's a good one. I like that. But as you guys know, we always have scripture for us to learn from and to hopefully gather some knowledge and wisdom from as well. It only becomes wisdom if we know how to use it in the right moments. But this comes from the parable of Sower. It's from Luke 8, verses 5 through 8. It says, a sower went out to sow his seed, and he sowed. Some fell by the wayside, and it was trampled down, and the birds of the air devoured it. Some fell on the rock, and as soon as it sprang up, it withered away, because it lacked moisture. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprang up with it and choked it. But others fell on the ground, sprang up, and yielded a crop of 100-fold. When he said these things, he cried, "He who has ears to hear, let him hear." And that is a lot. But we're going to break it down a little further. Going down to verses 11, the parable is this. The seed is the word of God, or the lessons that you're teaching your children in the home, right? Those by the wayside are the ones who hear, and then the devil, the enemy, comes and takes it away out of their hearts, lest they should believe and be saved. But the ones on the rock are those who, when they hear it, they receive it with joy, and these have no root, and believe for a while, and then in time of temptation fall away. And now the ones that fell among the thorns are those, when they have heard, go out and are choked with the cares of riches and the pleasures of life, which that gets us all. We all get into the way of the world, and it brings no fruit to maturity. But the ones that fell on the good ground are those who, having heard the word with a noble and good heart, keep it and bear fruit with patience. Now, I bet you're asking yourself, how does that relate to parenting? As I said, this episode is called Lessons Learned, right? And it's from the kid's perspective of teaching, right? Because obviously, the lesson that I learned from my dad is closed mouths don't get fed. And then the lesson she learned from her parents and the things that she still carries with her is how she represents her family outside the house and all these things. And so that word for me, it has a lot of good stuff, but it also, it can, like the stuff that we get taught at home, it can go in one ear, out the other.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it's talking about. And I think we'll break down kind of the three different ones so you guys can really get it, because I know that was a lot of scripture, but it made sense to read all of it so we can get all of the goodness. So like he was saying, when it pertains to seeds, like when you're planting, of course, you're going to look to see how you need to take care of the plant, right? You're not going to take care of a cactus the same way that you would take care of a rose. A rose, yeah. And so you have to know like what type of soil, how much water, sunlight, all those things. You need to know the environment that it needs to be in to thrive. And that's the same thing with kids and teaching kids and just fostering up, decent human beings. So like it was saying, I guess we'll start from the bad to the good. So I'm going kind of out of order, but like it was saying, if the seeds fall on the stony ground and they get, basically, I'm paraphrasing y'all, it gets wiped away by birds or wind or whatever. That's the same as if you're teaching your kids, but it's not sticking. So how does it not stick? There's that do as I say, not as I do situation. And we all know that that doesn't really work.
No.
Because kids are going to mimic the people that they're around. So it's important not only as parents, but also as parents to look to see what type of people and what environment are you putting your children in, because they're little sponges, right? So everything that you put on them, they're going to absorb. Like there's things, I was laughing the other day, like I have to make sure that I use proper English, because I've done this since a child. Like I make up words, like, or I'll mispronounce words on purpose, just being
like
funny.
Like Bologna for me.
Yeah. And I caught her saying something country, like with a super country accent, because I always say it like that jokingly, and I heard her say it the other day, and I'm like, people are gonna think she's from like freaking Mississippi, Tennessee or something, because she pronounces this word like this, but it's because she's listening to me. And I can say all day, oh no, it's, you say it like this, but then if she's hearing me say it differently, which way is she gonna go? She's not gonna, what I'm saying is gonna flow away like that seed. And so learning how to teach your children are very important, and how they absorb things.
Yeah. And I think that is important for us to be aware of the differences of our children, right? Even though, you know, some parents, you know, funny story, I think we talked about it last time, but we went to my grandma's birthday, and people was like, oh my goodness, she looks just like the older one, you know? Talking about Rosalind. And my sister goes, you have to excuse her. You have to excuse people. They're not used to seeing, they're not used to children being from the same parents, basically. Because, you know, we move around. A lot of Rolling Stones. But it made me laugh. But even though they're both from us, they're two completely different people. And it doesn't matter that me and my sister has two different fathers. Me and Marissa are very similar.
And you guys grew up in the same house.
And we grew up in the same house. We're very similar. And you had to teach us very differently. You know, you got to know which way to go when you're parenting. And again, this may be common sense for most people. But I feel like a lot of people don't know that you can't treat one child the way that you do another child.
Yeah.
And it's not a favoritism. It's not a caste or anything like that in the house, because you're going to love your children all the same. But I got to be tougher on Roman than I do on Robin. Not only because he's a boy, because he's older. Not because only he's not with us, because I need to be able to instill some things that I want him to have in life that I also have. And one thing about the parenting, kind of like what you asked earlier, what is something that, what was the question that you asked?
Oh, something that people don't talk about a lot that you value.
Well, this is a little different, but that you as a parent, don't lose my train of thought here. Gosh, it's gone.
It's leaving. It's leaving.
It's gone. But it has something to do with, I can't, expectations. We put unmet expectations on our children.
Yeah.
And in a sense, that can get them brushed away. That is the same thing with trampled down or carried away, or devoured, because they're going to try to live up to what I expect them to do. And that's not a terrible thing by any means, but I think we have to do a job of allowing them to mess up. I don't feel like sometimes when you look at older people, they didn't have that grace from their parents to mess up.
Mm-hmm.
And not all the time, but sometimes they go down that bad path. Right? Where it was too much pressure for them to live up to X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And now, because of those expectations that never met, they never feel truly fulfilled as an adult, because I never heard good job son or good job daughter.
Right. I was going to say too, just on the teaching part, I will say, like, me and my brother have the same parents and we grew up in the same house, but we were still taught differently when it came to like schoolwork or things like that. There was things that my mom did with both of us, of course, but like I am a little bit more fluid, artsy, creative type, and my brother's a little bit more rigid. He's an engineer, y'all. So just put that as you may. So he's a little bit more rigid. He's always been like super easy at studying. And so like when we were younger, I know that my mom, like for me, when she would help teach me stuff, we would make up songs about things. Like if I'm doing my spelling list or whatever, we would make up songs so I could remember them.
I used to do that by myself. Like I used to try to be like, okay, I know this song. Let me put this in the lyric or somehow so I can try to hold this in my head for my
and it would
test.
Stick. But my brother literally could like study one time and be like, got it. And it would make me so mad.
That's so funny because I feel like I'm a bit of both. But my mom really didn't help me much in school. Like I told her the other day, I was like, I didn't feel like I was smart in school. Like I don't know, like I wasn't a straight A student or anything like that. But and she helped me to where she could. When I got to pre-algebra, algebra, geometry, she was like, I'm done. Like I have no idea.
Go ask your teacher.
I have no idea what you're doing there. But yeah, I would study that stuff and I would do like that. But then I'm also there. I guess it has to be interest.
Yeah.
It has to be an interest level.
Yeah.
There. And also, kind of again with the way you're teaching your child, there has to be some type of interest there. If I'm telling,
and that's what she was able to be flexible to know that like, okay, I can't teach Brent the same way that I taught Brianna because it's not gonna work, and vice versa. And even with discipline and stuff, like me, she took stuff away. Like I was a take stuff away. That hurt my heart when I got stuff taken away. Brent was I'm a disappointed in you type person. Like you say that kind of stuff and he's like, ugh.
Yeah. A shot to the heart.
But it's like you would think from the outside looking in, like this, okay, they're gonna parent their children the same way. But we didn't. Like we grew up together, but we grew up differently. If that makes sense.
You have two different experiences.
Yeah, and it's because she was attentive to know that, like, okay, this is the type of person that my daughter is, and this is the type of person my son is, so I have to do it differently. And so if she would have said, okay, this is a one-size-fits-all, then one of us would have been the seed that got blown away because it wouldn't have stuck. And it would have been basically going in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I like to tell people, like, obviously my sister has a different experience than I had growing up, and she was like, you was this, that, and the other. She's like, I was a lot like Cameron, which means that she was always almost the problem child, but not the problem child. But they both like to be out and about. They just like to be out. Me, I'm at the crib, I'm chilling. I didn't want my mom to worry. Obviously, if you know my story a little bit, you know who I am. My brother died when I was 12. He was 17. Yeah, he just turned 17. And so I didn't want to put extra stress on my mom, right? So I felt like I had to be a little bit more reserved. Obviously, with me being that middle child, now oldest child, the youngest child, they get to be a little bit more extravagant, which that's who Marissa is and who she was, and that's just how she did. And so my mom had to worry a little bit more for my sister just because of that type of personality that she is. She still is outgoing. I think she's at a concert tonight. But the way that she talked to us and taught us was just like Bree's experience, and just she helped me when she could. And with Marissa, she was a lot more sterner and still wasn't stern enough sometimes. But that's just my own observations. The next thing is some fell among the thorns, and the thorns sprang up, and it sprang up with it and then choked it. Right? And that's those are the lessons that you're just hard-headed about for me. Right? Like you've been told not to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And then you still do X, Y, and Z. And then you get in trouble, right? Or you just didn't heed the caution that was given to you as a child.
You know what I was thinking just now when you read that again? Because I was thinking the same thing as you. But also what just popped in my head from the Holy Spirit I'm going to give props to. Generational curses.
Mm.
Because sometimes there's things that we may not teach as parents to do it, but we're also not breaking the cycle of it. So,
Ooh.
like, for
That's
instance,
good. Yeah.
like if there's a generational curse of young ladies having children early in life without the stability of, you know, a family or husband or whatever the case is. If it's not that you're teaching your, like, some, if it keeps happening, it's not that you're teaching your child that it's okay, but if you're not talking about the underlying reasoning of, or like how we're getting to this point,
Right.
then that generational curse keeps going. So I think, like, with that, for instance, it's saying, like, you know, they're putting the seeds in, but then they're being choked out. So it's not that the parents are quote unquote bad parents. I don't like saying that, but just,
Right. No, I feel that.
you know, it's not that they aren't doing everything that they can, but it may be that there's underlying spiritual things or whatever things that have been passed down that are toxic or unhealthy behaviors that no one's talking about.
Yeah.
So that it just continues to fester.
Cycle, yeah.
And it's like you're trying to do good, but if you don't cut those generational curses off, they're just going to continue eventually. So it's like how can we, if someone came up to you and said, you know, there's these patterns in my family that I want to break, how can I break those? Like, what kind of advice would you give them?
My goodness, that's a loaded question.
I know
man.
it is a loaded question.
Gosh. You know, the biggest thing I think, again, for me, is kind of what I was talking about earlier. Is allowing our kids to be able to talk back, not in a disrespectful way, but it has to be a certain point in life where they're now high school kids, right? They're teenagers. You need to start having real conversations.
Yeah.
Right? I think
Gosh, middle school now. These kids are mature.
Middle school. Yeah. My daughter, my niece is 12 and she looks 15. And so I have conversations with her when I get to talk to her. Just as I told her mom to, you know, have conversations with her because we don't want the same pattern to go down and we don't want the same things to continuously happen. And it's like I told her the other day, I said, look around you, right? You want to go to, she wanted to do acting. She's like, she seems very adamant about going to do acting. And I said, okay, that's awesome. If you want to go to NYU, then you can't do that. You can, but you can't at the same time. It makes it a little bit harder. You can't do that with a baby at 16. Yeah, so let's focus on school and what else extracurricular activities that you enjoy. Let's focus on that, and then once you graduate, then let's get to NYU because that's what your goal is in life. Focus in on that, and just make that your driving passion. I said in 7th grade, I knew that I was going to college to play football. I didn't hell or high water. I knew it because I said it and I spoke it and I did everything in my power to align those expectations that I have within myself to make it a reality. And I didn't know the word manifesting at 12 and 2000. Right. I didn't know that, right? I was just like, this is what's happening. This is what's going to go down. This is what's going to do. I did exactly what I said I was going to do. Then I didn't finish the thought because of kind of like what this verse says, thorns sprang up and choked it. That's life. Life got into me and it choked out my reality of what I wanted. It had my expectations and life just choked it because I was allowing the pleasures of life as the temptations to take away what I implanted into myself.
Right.
Because I've always wanted to be a provider. That's always, ever since my brother passed, I was like, okay, well now it's up to me. It's up to me to make things right. It's up to me to make the life that I want to live for my family. And it put a lot of pressure on myself. And I think that probably also played into some other parts in life, but
And you weren't voicing this to anyone.
I
From
wasn't.
what you told me,
No, I
you
wasn't.
weren't talking to anyone.
No, this is
and
just
that kind of
all in my
stems
head.
that stems to what you were saying about parenting of making that safe space for your children to feel comfortable talking to you, because not that your mother didn't make a safe space, but
No.
you in your head already felt like you said, you had to be the one that she didn't worry about. And she never told you that you had to be that. You made that decision in your head, but because you guys didn't have that open conversation about it.
Yeah, and I think that's important as a parent.
Caused a domino effect.
Kind of, yeah. You know, and that's why I was told my sister, she had her first child. My niece is 12, she's 30, so you do the math. But that's what I was telling my sister is I was hoping that you would, I'm not the parent though, you know, more is caught than taught. But I was hoping as well that she would catch on to what I was doing and that she would follow suit, rather than us just having those conversations as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like we talked about as well not too long ago. I was telling her, I said, me and you had talks about X, Y, and Z. We've had the talks. You just didn't listen. Like I know for a fact I had to talk several times with you as when you were younger. And she was like, oh yeah. Now I was like, oh, now you remember. You know what I'm saying? And so I took, in a sense, a role of that father figure for my younger sister because I'm 7 years older than her. And again, we grew up in the house together, so I wanted her to be well off. And she's well off. She's figuring out life now. And she's, you know, it takes us a while. It takes us a while because we're not always getting those conversations
life be lifing.
But we're not always getting those conversations that really kind of stick with us as well.
Yeah.
In our youth, in our younger days. Very random, but I played quarterback in high school. I never got taught by a family member how to throw the ball. But me and Trey one day, I know I've told you this story. Me and Trey one day, we were playing catch in the streets. And this random guy, I still don't know who this guy is to this day, he stops, gets out of his car, and teaches us both how to throw the football.
Huh.
Never knew this guy. I couldn't point him out in the crowd today if he lived. I don't know who this man was. And he taught us how to throw the football properly. And that really helped me out.
That's very kind of him.
But that was a lesson that stuck with me throughout my entire high school, my junior high school career, college career. You know, I didn't play college. I didn't play quarterback in college. I still obviously held that lesson from this random stranger that paid it forward in a sense,
right?
Of teaching somebody. And so I think that kind of also instilled in me, like, I love helping the younger generation. Like, I just enjoy giving knowledge or helping in any way possible that I can. So to wrap up, what advice would I give is just paying it forward, right? Do to your children what you wish that would have happened to you, right? That's why I want to have an open conversation with my children. I want to have a safe space because I don't want them to go to another person that's the same age as them and say, what is this? I'd rather them come to me and let's have that conversation so we can stop, you know, that generational pattern of whatever it might be.
Right.
And one of the generational patterns is not feeling safe enough to talk to a parent, right? I mean, you might not see that as trauma, but most people that's in therapy talk about my relationship with my parent, right? And this is why I'm still affected by this these many years down the road.
Yeah. And a lot of times parents don't. That's the thing. I think if you're not a parent, you don't realize it till you are a parent. They're like, parents don't really know what they're doing. Like
Nobody knows what they're doing.
We do to an extent, but like our main focus is to make sure that we keep our children alive and they become decent human beings, right? Mm-hmm. That's the baseline of it. And then, you know, you add in other things. And so now me being a parent, like I look at the things that I used to, I don't, for lack of a better term, blame my parents about me. And I look at it differently now as a parent, like that's not something, like they couldn't have fixed that. Like that's something that I had to figure out, and there wasn't a way for them to make that happen. All they could do was plant the seeds, and it was how I decided to grow them.
And it's not, as a parent, you're not going to be able to cover every A through Z example of life. Like, you just hope the lessons that you're teaching are learned in a way that helps them before they get to said situation. Because
go ahead.
Because I just, you know, you don't want them out there fluttering. Like I felt like I was fluttering for like a long time. So,
No, I was just gonna say that it's almost like on an alphabet roadmap is like, I know A and I know Z and I know some options for you, but they got to fill in the other letters.
Yeah.
We can't fill them in for them. And it's like, for example, I think we've talked about before, Robin's emotion wall that we made it just has like simple emotions: sad, mad, happy, frustrated, and scared.
And those are the baselines.
And those are just the baselines, because I mean, she's 3, y'all. She can't. That's a lot, but it's just the fact of, we noticed that she was starting to have some tantrums more often than she normally did, and it was like, okay, what can we do to help her? We can't sit here and tell her stop crying. Like, stop, just stop, anybody. Don't cry, because then what's going to happen when she's 30 and she can't figure out her emotions?
Like 12.
Right. And so we started teaching her like just these basic emotions. Eventually we'll add some on, but these basic ones first, so that she can at least articulate to us when she's having these moments. So there, like the other day, me and her were sharing some lemonade, and she walked off, and I drank the last of it, and she came back, and she's like, oh, and I was like, what's wrong? And she was like, I'm frustrated is what she says. And I said, well, why? And she was like, because you drank up my lemonade. And I said, okay, you're right, I did drink up the rest of it. It was tasting good. And so I was proud of her for telling me that that's what it was. And she didn't have a fit about it. She said it, and then she calmed down. Mm-hmm. So then I got her some more lemonade, just because I was happy she was able to, have that communication with me and not just throw a fit and cry or whatever the case is. And is that every time? No. She's still growing and figuring it out, but it's the fact of trying to put those seeds in and break those generational that generational bondage of holding everything in. I think both of us did that at some point in life of holding that in, and we both are very adamant of wanting our kids to, feel safe and comfortable enough to tell us when they're upset, not just with things going on, but even with us. Of course, respectfully, but, we're not perfect, so there may be times that we are wrong.
Because, they'll let me know, Daddy's mean, or, or whatever, Daddy's mad, And again, that'll give us an opportunity to have conversations about why I was mad and sad or upset or whatever. But being able to have those conversations in the safety of our home is important for the growth. Because again, earlier we said we want to make sure that we're doing a great job of making a well-rounded individual, and being able to do that. I'm in my big age of 37. I was upset with my wife and just life, and I didn't know for what reasons. I knew I wasn't mad, angry, or sad. I knew I wasn't those things, but I had to find the other word of what I was. And it wasn't just her, it was also my son, because of the lessons that I'm teaching him and talking to him about. I was disappointed in him because when we have those conversations, I'm expecting some fruit, right? I don't need all the fruit, but I need something. I need to see that, there's growth there, right?
There's a root coming out.
You know what I'm saying? And there are in other areas, but in this area is very particularly tough for him. Because he has what I like to call, for me, my wisecracks. I always have something to say. If you know me, I do, right? My wife told me the other day, she's like, boy, you should have been a lawyer. I forgot what we was talking about. But my high school coach also told me that. He's like, one thing, if you don't make football, you need to be a lawyer. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. But
because he's going to make sure you get his point.
You know what I mean?
And he may change your mind.
And he has that, right? And he's going to say something, even though it may not be the right opportunity. It might not be the right moment to say it. He's going to say it because he's 7. And, kids don't have no filters. They don't know how to cut their words off sometimes. But we can talk about that for days. The last one is, the others fell on good ground, sprang up, and yielded a crop of 100-fold, some more.
So, I mean, this is the ideal one. You're wanting everything to stick and everything. And it sounds beautiful, but sometimes it requires you to do the hard things that you may not want to do. Mm-hmm. Whether that's most of the time it's going to be the discipline part of it, of figuring out that communication style and that discipline style. Yeah. We talk about love languages. It's the same thing with conflict. How do, we use that for relationships, but I think it goes with any kind of relationship, and including kids.
What's
like
that?
love languages.
Oh, okay. Just make
Like
sure I was tracking.
yeah, love languages, but also like conflict resolution, how they communicate in that way, communication style, and even discipline style, and
Yeah.
that's something that we're still trying to figure out with our kids, because again, kids are all different, and so just for instance, like Roman, his love language is more so of the gift receiving. Like he feels loved when he receives things, which I feel like most kids do to an extent, but that one sticks out the most.
Yeah, 100%.
Whereas Robin is a very much quality time. What is it? Physical touch type person. Like she's gonna mommy cuddle me till.
Yeah, she took a nap on my chest today.
Yeah.
So.
So and that for her is like yes. Or if you go and you sit, even if listen, she'll be like, come play with me in her room, and then she won't let you do anything of the blocks. Like she just wants you to sit there with her.
While she
and
builds.
yeah, and that's great for her. So it's learning what makes your kids tick. But even the discipline part, I think, is the one that is really, really important for the fact of making sure the seeds fall on good ground, because you can't be your kid's friend. Maybe when they're like, me and my mom, we cool now, I guess, when you're an adult. But as kids, me personally, I don't feel like parents can be friends with their kids.
I had a healthy fear of my mom, and she's 5'2". I had a healthy fear of my mom, and same thing with my dad. I didn't obviously grow up around him, but there was enough, obviously, child respect, I should say, that was there when he was around, and still, for the most part, it is what it is. Respect there, because again, if I'm saying that I am a believer and follower of God and Christ, then I have to obey parents and listen to them. Now, doesn't say I have to have a relationship with them, but
healthy boundaries
is important. And that's something as a parent that you have to set up with your child, because a majority of parents today, in today's age, like, we grew up a little rougher with our parents, right? Didn't really have that relationship as well as you'd like. And so you said, well, I'm going to do the complete opposite of what my parents did. And I'm going to be my child's friend. And again, we want to be, in a sense, of a parental friend, right? But not like a familial friend, right? We don't want to be like their best friend that's at school.
Like,
right?
We're safe enough for you to talk to us about everything, but if we ask you to do something,
do it post haste.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And so, as an educator, I see that a lot of parents the players that I coached, they were more so friends with theirs. And for example, there was this person that I know, they took their child who's underage to a trip and was allowing them to drink, and then put that stuff on social media like there was not going to be no consequences or repercussions, because they wanted to be their child's friend who's still underage, to allow them to do adult things.
That's crazy.
And for me, that's like, okay. Y'all couldn't have waited 4 years, for doing that. I know that you love your child and you want them to have a life of excitement and such, but don't do that to a point where it's detrimental, not only on you as how it looks, but then on that child, because you're supposed to be the responsible adult. And you may say, oh, I am being responsible. Well, not really, right? What are you teaching that person? Right? That they can do stuff and get away with it, and then be able to then not have to worry about the consequences or repercussions. Because in life, there's going to be consequences and repercussions. And I think we have to do a better job of telling people that. The way that we allow people to talk to people, back in the day, you used to say something out of line, you get knocked in the mouth. You can't do that now. Not as far as a parent, I'm talking about like a person to person. You know what I'm saying? Because again, you're not teaching your children, hey, be mindful with your words.
Right.
If you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all, because people are talking outside of their heads these days because of no fear of getting knocked out. And that's just real. Like, I mean, we got thumb gangsters. You know, I can talk a good game with my fingers.
Well, it's not. I guess it's not.
Yeah, X fingers.
I don't
But
have the same ring. Sorry.
but it's again, what lessons are you teaching and what lessons are getting soaked in to your child, and if everything goes right, everything's aligned the right way, you know, it will produce a great quality of life for them.
Yeah.
To where they don't, now they're going to struggle. Life is about struggle and how you bounce back. But again, that's something that you have to teach your child, that just because there's some struggle there doesn't mean that there's not going to be growth as well. And so, you know, a lot of people are not built or not taught enough of, you know, the toughness of life. It's going to shape you how it's going to shape you.
Yeah, yeah. And I think just something that you could do that could help you just like build that foundation is what is a, you know, businesses and whatever foundations, they all have mission statements. And this, I heard this in a meeting that I was in at work, and it really resonated with me. And it's something that we already do at the house, but he said it in a different way. And I was like, that's awesome. But having a mission statement for your family, what does that look like? Whether it's an acronym like we have, or we break down each letter of our name, like for Burkhalter, B is for brave. Okay, well, what does brave look like for our family? What is, you know? And so going through and really thinking of, you know, what foundation that you want to put into your children, that it's something that you can really like have resonate, where when they're an adult, they can remember, like, this is what it is. Just like we were saying at the beginning, you know, if you ask me or my brother or my mom or my dad, like, what is something that you guys made sure that we knew? Like, they wanted us to do everything in excellence, but I will say that the biggest thing was just making sure whatever you do outside this house, you do it that it's not going to be detrimental to you or to our name.
Yeah.
And it may have been a little scary the way it was said, but I value it now as an adult.
Yeah, you know, I'm just going back. We're watching this series, House of David, on Prime. Shameless plug for them. But it's really good because, again, it kind of brings us kind of what she was just saying. Back then, people used to be exiled outside of the group of the family, like outside of the whole, like, so, like the tribe of Benjamin, right? We'll just use that one. So if you did something which David's dad, for David to be born, had relations with a woman that was not popular, right? And so it got the family exiled because David was born because of a family issue. So they were no longer a part of the tribe of, say, they were the tribe of Judah, sorry. So Judah. So they were no longer inside that clique of Judah, right? Because they disrespected the name. And then I was thinking the other day, I was like, that we in America, we don't really do that, say much. Like, you look at Asian cultures, right? Like, you look at Mulan, you brought shame to the house of Fong. Is that the name? Mulan or whatever?
Yeah.
Fazu, you know what I'm saying? So they brought shame to that family, and in that Asian culture, that's still big today, right? They don't want to do that. They don't want to bring shame to their families. And so that's something that, again, I think as part of us, as I know what you're thinking about, don't. But I think that's something, though, if that, like the mission statement, and bringing obviously your last name like we do ours, making it something that your children can, like, when they're older, fall back on, even, you know, just to get through times, because it's something that I think is important for us as parents to really instill those lessons that will help them throughout life, because we want to be able to leave legacy and leave some type of treasure with them. And sometimes your words will be treasure, right? But that's all we have tonight, and we just greatly appreciate you guys for checking us out and listening in on us. If you do like us, please, if you don't like us,
If you do like us, like the video.
like the video, share the video, spread the message.
And if you have some tips on what you do as a parent or something that your parents did with you, drop it in the comments.
Yeah.
You know, we love to hear that.
Yeah.
And follow us on our Facebook page, Travis dash Bree. People, is it at People of Hope?
It's
No, just People of Hope.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all People of Hope is all together, no spaces.
One run on word. But thank you. Peace, love, and happiness.